Legacy.
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 All right, this is the Aztec Legacy Podcast with yours truly, Robert Ortiz, where we learn from the legacies of the past, present, and future Aztecs. Today we have a wideout on my boy Curtis Shearer from the 90s representing. Just real quick, I met this guy in Vegas, of all places, by accident. Looking like a superstar in the pool. and we connected and realized that we were both Aztecs. And it's a pleasure to have you on the show, brother.
Man, it's definitely a pleasure to be here. I appreciate you having me on, man.
Of course. And we're gonna jump right in. First off, I always start off. I wanna make sure everybody knows exactly who you are, where you're from. What kind of kid you were, what kind of sports you played back in the day. This was before San Diego State.
Oh, man. Shoot, before San Diego, man, I was like your all-around athlete, I think. Football, track. I got just as many tracks, offers as football offers, actually. You know what I mean? But was a state contender in track, 400, 200.
What area are you from?
I'm from the Bay Area, San Jose. So, grew up a big Cal Berkeley fan.
Yeah.
But once I got to Dago, things changed.
So what area in the Bay Area were you?
From San Jose, California, man.
San Jose, okay. And you grew up just playing all sports? I'm talking about like kid. I'm talking about like
yeah, we did.
12 years old. Were you playing football, track? What else?
I started running track high school.
Oh, high school. Okay.
I've been playing football since 8, man.
Since 8 years old. Me too.
I played football it was nonstop. Back in the days, kids actually played. You know what I mean? So we was waking up in the morning playing football, then getting the pads, going to Pop Warner, playing. Going to practice, playing, and then getting out of practice until your mama told you to come inside, man.
Yeah, for sure.
And our track back in the day was a light pole to light pole. If you think of me, we gonna line up and let's race, man.
Yeah. Did you have any siblings?
Man, I'm the youngest of 4.
Youngest of 4. So how was that dynamic growing up? Were you like always competing against your older siblings?
Well, shoot, I was like the accident baby, man.
Me too.
All my brothers are 2 years apart, and then I come and it's a 7-year difference.
Oh.
So I joke with my parents. So my next oldest brother, like 7 years older than me, and then all of them are 2. So I was like just a young runt trying to just hang around and learn. But they was all into sports and everything, so they just pretty much put me on automatically. You know what I mean? Like, you gonna play something, you gonna do something.
You're basically like an only child.
Basically. Basically, but not really, because they had to watch me the whole time. Whatever they went, they was like, my mom was like, take your little brother. They just mad. I'm coming.
See, I was on the opposite end. I was an accident baby, but I was the oldest of my siblings. And still, I was 7 years apart from the next, my sister who was next born. And
okay.
Again, same thing. I pretty much was the only child, but then, when I got older, then my sister, and then my little brother came 15 years after that. So I'm really the oldest.
You like uncle instead of big brother, huh?
Right? Exactly. All right. So who'd you most compete against growing up? I'm not talking about your sibling wise, but like in the neighborhood, did you have like a neighbor like, oh man, this guy, he always challenged me, or classmate? Was there anybody specific that challenged you?
No, I definitely had that. But the guy that I really, really went against a lot, like I grew up with some great kids, great people, everybody was athletic, but you probably you would never hear of him because he was in a whole nother game. But he was athletic as all can be.
Oh, okay. All right.
He didn't make it to college or anything like that, but this was one guy that we always competed. always went at it. You know, he was a hell of a ball player. He might have probably been better than me. He was running back, but got recruited by a lot of people, but just kind of went down the wrong road. And
I feel like we all know people like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but in the game, we pushed each other day in, day out, man. And it was just a consistent, just, you know, we always got it in and competed in everything. And, you know, it just kind of turned out the way it turned out, you know.
Yes, sir. And all right. So you started at 8 years old. You started young, but let's just jump to like your freshman year in high school. What positions did they have you playing? Were you wide out your entire career, or were you playing?
No, I played everything, man. I played wide out, DB. So I was a defensive player. I played just as much defense as I played offense. In high school back then, you played every position. There wasn't nothing, you know, I wasn't just like I played wide out. I played wide out. I played running back. I played corner. I played free safety. So if they didn't have no solid wide out on defense, then I played free safety. If they had somebody that was supposedly good, then I played corner and they put me on that guy.
Oh, okay. All right. Lockdown.
Yeah, I did it all, but wide out was my position. But, you know, in high school, a lot of, you know, I still killed at wide out, but we didn't really throw the ball a lot. You know, in high school, you know, the quarterback was, you know, was one of those ones where, you know, he was good enough to throw it, and I tell him, hey, just throw the ball. Close your eyes and throw it up there. I'll go get it.
Just throw it up. I'll go get it, huh? Okay.
So, you know, but yeah, I played every position. And,
I like it.
You know, my football coach was also my track coach. He was the one who actually got me in, Coach Heyman.
Okay.
And well, it was a village, Coach Heyman, Coach Pointer, and Miss Bivens. So those were the ones who pretty much saved me as far as just keeping me on the right track and get me in football. And then when football was over, I'm thinking, okay, cool, I got some break time. And they're like, nope, you gonna run track. You fast.
Well, I'm like, what events did you run in track?
I was a 200, 400 guy.
See, that was the same as me, and I hated the 400, but I had good endurance. So
yeah, I was number 2 in the state in the 400, 47.5. Wow. And then I was 20.7 in the 2.
Are you a beast?
I could run a little bit.
Yeah, I like it. All right, so you got endurance then, because the 400 ain't no joke.
Yeah, coming out of high school, I definitely had that.
Now on that, let's stay right there in the track and field, the 400, right? What was your technique? I just want to know, give the people a little bit of technique, because I know, you know, you try to stay with that the guy ahead. At least what I would stay with the guy ahead, right? And at some point I would strike, you know, but then you got to hold that strike, you know, so you don't want to have to hold that strike for too long.
Right.
So what was your technique? 47.5.
Starting off?
Yeah, well, take me through the 400.
So if I take you chronologically through it on how I learned it, my coach was kind of how can I say this? He was like an ass.
Uh-huh.
He didn't teach me no technique. He just knew I was fast, knew I could run. So the very first 400 I ran, he told me, I said, how do I run it?
Uh-huh.
He said, this is what you do. You just get in the blocks. When the gun shoots, you're fast. You just run around the track fast as you can. So I'm like, okay, cool. So I get out and I run it like a 200, like a full sprint. And I get out, I'm hauling ass. Take off. I don't do anything, just take off. I get to about a 300 mark.
Yeah.
Legs cramp up. I don't even finish the race, man. I fall off the track.
Yeah, locked up.
He next to me and says, son, you're going to be a great 400 guy. And I said, well, I didn't finish the race, bro.
Mm-hmm.
He said, man, you hit the 200 at 21. At that point in time, I was a sophomore. He said, you was like 21 something, like 21.9 or whatever at the 200 mark.
You were probably way out in front of everybody. Everybody probably looking at you like.
I thought I had it.
Right?
But there was one of the great quarter milers in my section back then. And he was a 48, like low 48 guy. Hispanic cat named Hector Securos. He actually taught me how to run the 400. He don't know it to this day. If he watched it to this day, he don't even know he taught me how to run it.
Wow.
So when I hit that, I got to about the 200 and he caught up to me and just nice and smooth, just ran away from me.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow. And I couldn't keep up. I'm trying to run fast. I couldn't go no faster. So when it came time to it, the coach was like, hey, there's a technique to it. You got to get out. You got to pace yourself. You know, you got to get to the 200 mark. You got to leave a little build up so you have a little kick at the end. But I ran on the relay team too, and I was the youngest on the relay. We had a real good relay team. We ended up running like 3:15 in the state.
Okay.
But I was the only sophomore with seniors, and all those dudes were like 48 guys. But the second leg was the Hector Securos for the team that we used to go run against. He said, man, just stay with him.
Stay with him.
Stay in the race, just stay with him. So I was like, okay, well, I'm going to pace my feet to him.
Yeah.
Because I'd always get the baton. It worked out. I get the baton the same as him. And he kept the same pace. And I asked him, I'm like, man, how do you run a race? He said, man, I don't run nobody else's race. I just run my race.
Yeah.
He said, so I'm not going to run off the guy. I know where I should be. And if I run my time and beat my times, then most people are not going to beat that time. So I don't worry about most people because they're going to gas out just like your ass did.
Right?
He said, you got out, but I didn't let that affect me. And I thought about it. He's like, man, you got out. He was killing me. Because foot-wise, I'm actually faster than him, but he just knew how to pace it. Yeah. And he got up. So that was like a big lesson for me. Like, don't run nobody else's race. Yeah. Just run my time. Like, don't get caught up in what everybody else is doing. I know that I got to get out and hit this mark at this time. I got to get to the 200 about this time. And I got enough kick to finish the race at this. So if I can kind of keep doing that and just perfect it inch by inch, then I should beat most people.
Right. All right.
And it panned out. And, you know, California has a lot of great 400 guys because back then they had Saladin McCullum from Muir and, you know, a lot of good guys, man, that were all football players as well. Lamont Warren that ended up going to, where was he at? I know he ended up getting drafted to the Colts, but he was one of my big competition in track, but he was from Dorsey.
Oh, okay.
So, you know, they had a lot of hogs. So in the Bay, I didn't really have too much competition. I could run the 400 in my sleep and nobody was beating me. But when it came down to Southern California, that's who I had to get ready for.
Yes, sir.
So, you know, one of those.
So you were endurance guy, fast. You played all positions in football. Now let's talk about, you know, when you started getting recruited, what were you recruited most for? I know you said track potentially, but just what type of things were they wanting you to do? Did they want you to play both? Like the schools that were recruiting you, did they want you to play both? Was it just track or just football? Like how was that?
No, schools recruited me individually for each one. So I got recruited by football-wise, like by everybody, pretty much like a lot of schools. Mm-hmm. But then a lot of different schools, I'd have their track teams recruit me, but then I'd have their football teams recruit. So it's different coaches.
Oh, but they didn't know?
No, they knew, but it was like the track program, like at Cal, the track coach came in, recruited, you know, was talking to me. Yeah. And then the football coach was talking to me, but I just would always shoot him to the left and let him know, no, I'm going to play football. Okay. So a lot of coaches would come that with track. So now it came down to the football coaches where it was like, well, if I come to the school, can I play football and run track?
Okay.
And then a lot of schools were pretty much saying, well, no, we recruit, we want you to play football.
Okay.
I'm like, okay. You know.
And what position?
I wouldn't mind running track, but I got recruited mainly as a wideout.
Okay, wide receiver.
Yeah.
No other positions?
No, I got recruited as a couple schools wanted me to play DB too, but
DB. Okay.
Majority thing they pretty much knew my heart was at wideout. Like I was doing my thing in high school as a wideout.
Okay.
Like I was getting it in.
Nice.
But
okay, so now it's clearing that. Now we getting there. We getting to the meat of it. Now you wide out, you killing the game. You know, what was your most memorable moment in high school that you can just kind of give us a, you know, maybe most memorable game or
it was Gunderson High School. I know a lot of you guys aren't gonna be familiar with school out here. That's probably one of my biggest games.
Okay. So
I ended up with like 10 catches, like 300 yards and 4 touchdowns.
Nice. All wide out? No.
One of the touchdowns I ran a kickoff back as well. Because I did kickoff return, punt return.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those games.
You didn't come off the field, huh?
No, I didn't. If we punted the ball, I ran down as a gunner. If they were punting to us, I was the returner. If they kicked off to us, I was returner. If we kicked off, I was running down. Like, I only came off the field when it was an extra point.
Yeah.
We scored, I'll come off. Other than that, I didn't even want to come off, man. I think because I was just so used, as a kid growing up playing in the street, you just play all day.
Yeah.
So for me, it wasn't normal just to come off. It was just, hey, man, we're just gonna play. I want to be on the field. Yeah. So, you don't realize that you're not going to learn everything when you get to college and know that, there's a learning curve, man. You got to learn. So one position is a lot.
Yeah.
Then it was kind of simple. So the game was simpler for me back then.
Yeah. All right. And so you said you had a lot of people recruiting you. Give us your top three that you were like, these are the three that were competing for you.
I was a big Cal Berkeley fan, man.
Cal?
So Cal was really my number one school, and they were actually one of the first schools to recruit me.
Okay.
That was the first college letter I ever got, was from Cal Berkeley. And I was like,
you're hyped.
I was hyped. I'm going to Cal.
Okay.
My mom, I'm going to Cal. Like I was set on Cal. And they were my first recruiting trip. So I took all my trips actually to all Pac-10 schools with the exception of San Diego State.
Okay. Yes.
So, and San Diego was my last trip. And Cal was first.
I'm glad we were last.
So when I went to Cal, they actually offered me as soon as I got there, like, we want you. And I was, they tried to pressure me with Sean Dawkins. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you ever heard of him. He ended up playing with the Colts. Came out of Cal, actually.
Okay.
Ended up going to Cal. So it was me and him, and he was a track guy, and I used to destroy his ass in track. So who recruited me from San Diego State the whole time when Cal was recruiting me, Coach Curtis Johnson was the one recruiting me.
Yeah.
He would always come to the track meets, but he was recruiting Sean too. But the coaches from Cal were recruiting. So we were the two number one coming out the Bay at the time.
Yeah. And
they're like, oh, I don't know if you know about Coach Johnson too much, but he talks a lot of mess.
Oh,
I love him. He was like, oh, I'm gonna come to your track meet, but I'm recruiting Sean. If you can't beat him, I can't sign you.
Ooh, wee.
I'm like, oh, I love it, man. I love it. I'm finna go get him, Coach. I'm finna go get him.
Oh, you're saying he was talking trash to you?
Yeah, Coach Johnson.
I thought Cal was telling you that
Johnson, but he recruited me at the same time. So simultaneously, this is like during track. Even though Cal was the first one, when it came time to take trips, San Diego's recruiting me at the same time. But in my mind, I'm like, I'm gonna go to Cal.
Yeah.
I coach. So I took my trip to Cal. It was a great trip. I had a good time. Like they treated me well. It was cool. I liked the coaches, Pac-10, and then I also tripped to. So after Cal offered, I had a real good mentor, man. My high school coach was a great mentor to me. He's like, man, he played in the league, went to college, all that, and he was just telling me, hey, you're a good player. If they offer you, don't take the offer. Don't just take all your trips.
Yeah.
Even if you know where you want to go, I know you like Cal, but just. You're young. You haven't been nowhere. Just take your trips and feel everybody out before you make a decision. Yeah. And if that school really wants you, they'll wait for you. So even though they throw an offer out there, they can't sign nobody till signing day. So don't fall for the banana in the tailpipe.
Yeah.
Hey, Coach, and they tried. It was like, man, we want to offer you. If you don't take the offer, we're going to sign Sean Dawkins. And he was tripping the next week. And I was like, well, I think I'm better than him. So I'm going to wait, Coach. I want to take my trips. And they respected it. So then I tripped to Oregon the week after that, then Oregon State. And I had a trip to SC, but I hadn't taken my SATs yet at the time. And because I hadn't taken the SATs, like, well, yeah, you don't have the SATs, so we're not going to trip you until you take your SATs.
Okay.
So I'm like, all right. So then I ended up going to Arizona. So I did all those trips, and I was still like, Cal. But my dad was like, we like this Coach Johnson guy. Coach Johnson guy is just, I like him because he would come in and he did the home visits and everything. I'm like, man, he's cool. And I like him. And, I like Cal too, but I haven't went to Dago yet. So
do you know who the wideout coach was at Cal?
At the time, I forgot his name.
Oh, perfect. That's okay. I just want to make sure. Curtis
Yeah,
Johnson, baby. You remember him?
oh no, I'm never gonna forget him. He's OG. He's Splinter.
Yes, sir.
He Turtles and he's Splinter. Because no, I love Coach Johnson, man. I mean, Coach Johnson realistically is like a father figure mentor to me because through the whole process, he just even when I was going to different schools, he kind of coached me through the process.
Uh-huh.
I think that's one thing as a young kid not knowing anything that I respect most about C's is just he knew what he was about and he's like, no, go to these schools. You went to these schools, we come last, da-da-da. And I'll break it down when you get to San Diego because you want to play wide out and I'm gonna break it down to you.
Yes, sir.
And then when it finally came time for me to go to San Diego State for my trip, I get there and meet with C's first. And he's kind of telling me like, how did you feel about your other schools? You know, who's your number one? And da-da-da. I said, I like Cal. He said, so if you don't go here, you go to Cal. I'm like, yeah. He said, okay, well, let me break it down. He put up Cal stats. He put up San Diego stats. He said, we throw the ball. And of course, the amount of times that we throw the ball compared to the Pac-10 back then, you catch 40 passes in the Pac-10, you lead in the Pac-10. And it was Brian Triggs that was leading at the time. He had like 40-something passes.
Yeah.
40-something catches. And I remember that because I used to watch him. Like, oh, so their third receiver at State, third or fourth receiver caught more passes than him. So then I was like, man, if I come here, even if I just get in the lineup.
Yeah, you getting some catches.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, well, shoot. I'm with that. So just, you know, you went to Tate, so you already know walking around the school and being around. I mean, I was falling in love with like, man, this is great. This is cool. Yes. But then it went the wideouts. Because they're, you know, when you come to State, you don't get recruited. You have one host. Like Patrick Rowe was my host. So you look at San Diego State tradition. Patrick Rowe is one of the best wideouts to come through State. But he was my host, and I love P. Rowe, Grandpa. I love that dude, bro. That's another brother to me. But when you come to State, you don't get hosted by. If you're a wideout, you don't get hosted by the one. You get hosted by the wideouts.
Yeah.
So, you know, they all, you know, took care of a brother. So just seeing the camaraderie that they had and just seeing like how close knit they were and just, you know, the tradition they had compared to the other schools that I went to, including Cal, I was like, man, these dudes, they all good dudes, man. Like I couldn't beat it in the school. And then Coach C's, it was just, I felt like I fit in when I took that trip there. So that's what kind of sealed the deal. So when I came back, Cal was still waiting on me. Day I got back, you come in? And I said, I know I wasn't supposed to commit, but I committed to San Diego State.
While you were on the trip?
Hey, they looked at me like, you're going to go to San Diego State over a Pac-10 school? Yeah. I said, yes. I feel like I fit in, and I don't regret the decision at all to this day.
Yeah, for sure.
It was some of the best years of my life being there. Just I learned so much. Just as a wide, I don't think I would have got the tutelage anywhere else that I got being around Coach C.
I truly believe that same thing. You know, I obviously didn't get to be coached by him, but I got to be coached by, you know, someone that was coached by him. So, you know, to me, I felt like I was down that line.
You can say it because he came in with me.
Yes, sir. Ray Coach P, Ray Peterson.
You can say it. That's how you know, like how we met. When you said who coached you, I'm like, man, we played together. We was on the same field together.
Yeah.
So we own it with stand-up guys like that, where, you know, it's just a handful of, not even a handful, it's just an abundance of people that were great people. Ray Peterson is another great dude. I mean, just great person, great. He's now a great mentor because he was a mentor to you. And was one of the things that C's, I think, inbred in a lot of people that he coached. And I think that's why a lot of us now that give back in our coaches and just give back and mentor other receivers, other wideouts, and just teaching people. I think that's just the tradition that San Diego has, man.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so you committed on your trip, which is cool. You know, I like the sound of that. I like that they offered you a cow. He's like, hold on, I gotta wait. And then you
Yeah.
get to San Diego State, they offer you, and it was a yes.
Yeah.
Now, did you have a phone call to your parents first before you made that decision?
Yeah, well, I did. And I called my pops and he was like, man, they offered. And I already knew where my mom and dad were already, even before I took the trip, because my pops would just sit back and, during the recruiting process, they come sit in your house. And he sat down with all the coaches, sat with C, sat with everybody. And just off the coaches that came in and just what they would say, he was stuck on C's.
Yeah.
He was like, that was his number one pick. He's like, I don't know all these other schools, but I just go by who I like.
Yeah.
And my was that way. Like, I like this Coach C's guy. Like, he seems up front. I don't know if the other ones are really telling the truth, but I think he seems up front.
Yeah, real recognized real.
Yeah. So I called my pops while I was, on my last day, and he was like, how things going? I'm like, man, I like it. And he said, did they offer you? I'm like, yeah, they offered. And, it's my last trip. So I might as well, I'm not going anywhere else with no other trips planned because this is my 5th trip. Like,
yeah.
And I like it. So I think I'm done. I'm tripped out. He's like, you don't want to go to Cal? I'm like, I think I'm gonna call the coach and let him know. So he's like, good choice, son. So I committed. And the rest was history. I got home, the coach from Cal called and I let him know, hey, man, I committed to San Diego State, man. I think that's where I belong.
I think it helps when your parents are in agreement with you. Regardless, you're going to do what you want to do, right? But when your parents are like, yeah, I agree, that alone feels good. To me, it did.
Yeah.
Growing up. All right, so you picked San Diego State. Now, do you remember like your first day coming to San Diego State, what it was like, what it felt like? Who, because I'm sure you were in the VAs or one of those joints with somebody.
First day there, we was in Trash Tech.
Sure, what?
Trash Tech. Those were the dorms. I stayed in the VAs, but when you go to camp, when you have camp, all the football team before you transition to the villas, you stayed in Trash Tech.
What was that?
That was gone probably by the time you got there.
Oh, okay. I was like, where is that?
Yeah, no, dorms. It was dorms. It was like old school 2-man dorms, and it sucked.
Who was your roommate?
Those were the worst dorms.
Who was your roommate?
Actually, Jeff Speech.
Okay.
And he came. He's actually from the Bay. He was the only person I knew coming out to San Diego because he was from San Francisco, so he's from the Bay Area. So we knew each other. So we all got recruited. He was out of Reardon. So he was my roommate. So I told C's, I said, I'm gonna come, but give me Speech as my roommate.
Oh,
so
you requested. Okay.
Yeah, because I just wanted to at least know somebody because I didn't know nobody.
Yeah.
Like I came out, didn't know anybody except, everybody I met on my recruiting trip.
Yeah. So what was your first experience on the field? Like, do you have like the first day you got on the field? How did it feel with the other players that you had, like older players? Like, where were you at mentally?
Mentally, it was kind of a rude awakening for me when I first got there. So we get in there and I meet with Coach C as we get there, and he sits down and he asks me, he says, so what do you think in camp? Because he met with everybody one-on-one. I said, man, I'm trying to play. So you think you're gonna be able to start? Like, what's your mindset? I'm saying, I'm playing. Like I didn't come here to sit down. And he was like, well, we may redshirt you because we got a lot of people. I'm like, what is that? Because I didn't even know what a red shirt was.
Oh, okay.
He's like, no, you sit for you. I'm like, who does that? Like, everywhere I went growing, just, you go pop one and play. Like that was just a process for me. I'm playing, brother.
Yeah.
I'm all whatever, I'm playing. And granted, in high school, I was so fat. Nobody really pressed me in high school. They respected the speed, whatever, but it was high school. So I went crazy. So I really didn't have to deal with press too much.
Yeah.
Hence where I'm leading.
Yeah.
I know what's going on.
All right. So run it.
So we sit in the meeting. I'm sitting in the meeting with C's, and he says, "You're trying to play." So he said, "Okay, son, I'm gonna throw some film on." So he puts on film of Jimmy Ray, Patrick Rowe, Dennis Airy. They had Keith Williams, Will Tate. It was just so many whites. So I'm watching them in practice, like running their routes. I'm like, ooh, they look nice.
Yeah.
Hey,
Sure,
they look good. Like, damn. You know, I'm like, okay. So then I get in the practice. It's probably about the third or fourth day in camp. And Marlon Andrews is the corner. And he was like back then, he had Marlon Andrews, GT, great corners back then.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, I don't know if I'm gonna play, but I'm gonna try to prove it. And back then I used to put the Gatorade, and it was like the corners and the DBs. And I had a Gatorade like on the 15-yard line in the cups, different colors and stuff.
Oh, shoot.
Yeah. So Marlon Andrews comes up, and this was one of my welcome to college football days. So I line up, and he presses the shit out of me. Just call it point blank. And you think the play is over. He literally drives me to the Gatorade. I get thrown in the Gatorade.
Oh,
my white shirt is like all different
rainbow,
colors.
rainbow colored.
Rainbow. It's soaked in Gatorade. I'm like, God damn. And all I remember is I'm pissed off, right? So I'm coming. And Coach Johnson comes over and he said, "Why you mad?" He said, "Son, I'm going to tell you one thing. And listen close when I say it. If your ass can't get off press, you can't play here." And I looked at him, pissed off. He said, "You think you ready to play right now?"
Ooh, wee.
So I looked at Marlon and I said, "Man, after practice, brother, me and you." He said, "I ain't got no problem with it. Rookie, welcome to D1." So from then on, we go through practice. I remember just going with him after practice. And this is what I loved about San Diego. He met with me 15 minutes, him, GT, all the DBs, would always work with him like 15 minutes after practice. I said, "Man, what did I do wrong?
Yeah.
What did you see?" Most people, man, he basically kind of broke it down till it got to a point where you couldn't press me no more. And I just remember C's messing with me the whole time with the little red dot in the meetings.
Yeah.
Oh, look at this. Rewinding it 100 times, like, C's, really? Like, get on them, you know what I mean? But it was one of those humbling things where it's like, I got to get better. And this is where I got to compete.
Yeah.
And I'm not going home. So let's get it in. And, you know, I just had to adapt that mentality where it was just not, we're going to work. If I got to work an hour, 15 minutes more, whatever it's got to be, I'm not ever getting pressed again. I'm going to be one of the best dudes oppressive that's coming out of here. And that was just my mentality. So I just did what I had to do to try to just get better. And
that's amazing.
There was a lot during the time that worked with you, you know, that I admired, that I looked up to during that time, and just watching them dudes in the game play. Like I remember watching Marlon and GT and them, and granted, we got on the DBs all the time. You know, it got to a point where it's like, it's wide house.
Yeah.
But to watch those dudes cheer for him actually in the games, I remember in Miami, he was just shutting up. We should have beat Miami. We lost to him by 2 points.
Yeah.
And to watch the dudes play made me be like, man, for me to be a wideout here, I got to step my game up, because them the dudes I got to beat. And if I can't beat them, then, you know, what are we doing?
Yeah.
So
that's amazing. Amazing to hear, because I was in a similar situation. Marvio Underwood was my DB that I was like, "Yo, you got to stay after practice." And he was like he was my boy off the field, so he was okay with it. But you know, it's refreshing to hear that you being, you know, new, and them guys still staying after with you and for you. That's special. You know, those are the guys that you remember. Even though they're not in the whiteout room, they're still special to you, you know, because they got you to the point where you need to go.
Exactly. I'm gonna say those are the guys that are part of your process, that help your mentality. Like we wideouts all day. Like I'm wide out to the heart. But you're not going to be that without the competitiveness of just being able to line up against some good people that's going to push you.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's all part of the process. We're going to talk our mess. We're going to talk our trash, but you need that. And I think that's just what kind of helps you progress as a man and helps you progress just throughout your game and your craft and helps you mold who you're going to be as a person and what type of player that you want to be.
Yeah.
So you need that adversity. That's football's one game where every single down you're going to have an adversity because the person across from you is in your way.
Yeah. Well, all right. So we have your welcome to D1 story. Now give us, because I know you have it, the game that you, we could just call it record books. We could call it whatever, but the game you most remember that everybody should remember you for. Let's run it for us.
Man, I already know. Thursday night. That's when Thursday night was only college football before the NFL took over.
Yeah, he knows the day. Oh shoot.
Yeah. I'm never gonna forget it because it was just one of those one of them games where I was in a zone and it just felt good, man. It was like one of the best feelings. That was a rush. It was Thursday night, Air Force. Got 17 catches one game, bro.
Yeah.
And, Timmy Gutierrez was a quarterback. And in that same game, I caught 17, Will Blackwell caught 10, Isaac King caught 8. So he was throwing the ball in the same game. Man.
Yeah.
Like the wideouts was going crazy. And they just gave us a lot of room. And it was just one of those games where I started getting close to the record. I didn't realize it was even the record. I was just playing. I was like, man, because then in high school, I was catching like 13, 14 passes a game.
Yeah.
Like I was a lot in high school. So it was like,
normal.
Cool. Yeah. But it was just one of those games where it started getting close. I heard the announcer saying, Curtis Shearer getting close to the record, and then I just remember the crowd because everybody used to call me Swanee. So I just remember the crowd like, throw it to Swanee. And I started getting close. And then when I had tied the record, and it was the most at the time it was the most at San Diego State, and it was the most at the time for NCAA.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So they're like, oh, you just broke the NCAA record. Well, you tied it for the most catches in one game until Alex Van Dyke came back the week after from Nevada Arena and caught like 21.
The week after? Oh, shoot.
So it lasted about a week, but that game was probably one of my biggest, not even probably, it was the biggest game that I had. It was just one of a great, great feeling, man. And just to get out there.
Do you think that was the game that put you on the map for the next level or,
Yeah, it had to be because that was the game that gave me a lot of recognition because I was ranked at the time. I was leading the NCAA at the time. And this was the crazy part about the wideouts from San Diego State at that time. So that game, at the moment, I was leading NCAA, tied with DeAndre Maxwell, San Diego State.
Yep.
And we had the same amount. And in the third place at that time for those weeks was Will Blackwell. So they wanted to interview us. And this was they wanted to interview me. This was the funny part. So they came that week, you caught it. So the news wanted to come interview me. And they said, hey, this is kind of the first time that, we have 3 wideouts that are ranked in the nation with catches and all from the same school. The top 3.
Yeah.
But they're my roommates. Because we're all roommates.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Like, they go during that time, all the wideouts stayed together.
Yeah.
So the news guy, they came to San Diego. They were sitting at the facility, getting ready to do the interview. So I'm sitting down, literally, cameras, everything, about to do the interview for the news. So in the middle of the interview, the guy says, wait, time out. DeAndre Maxwell, Will Blackwell are your roommates? I said, yeah. All you guys live together? Yes. He said, man, cut the camera off. He said, this is a first. He said, do you mind if we get them in on the interview with you? And can we do it at your house?
Oh.
I said, man, I don't mind. So they ended up breaking down all their camera crew, all their stuff.
Yeah.
Stopped the interview. came to K5, which was like the wideout hideout back in the day. If he was a white, you knew about K5 back then.
Okay.
And interviewed us there, like, you know, what's y'all process? Like, how do you guys, you know, get ready for games? What's your daily routine? Like, how do you guys live together and compete amongst each other and get out there and play to put up these numbers and try to help, you know, San Diego State?
Yeah.
And that was another great time where just for all of us, it kind of, I think, really helped us all out as far as just kind of putting everybody on the map as far as just the wideouts and tradition that San Diego State has back then, as far as just how we play. And you already know you're part of that tradition.
Yeah.
And it's
actually, I actually wanted to go into that next. I wanted you to share, because we were sitting in Vegas and, you know, we were having this conversation and, you know, you were putting me up on game on stuff. And, you know, I just want you to share with, you know, the podcast, the future. And, you know, this is part of your legacy and really the San Diego State legacy, and just kind of maybe explain the wideout, you know, the term wideout, why we hold it so dearly to our hearts.
because wideout is not just a position, brother. It's a lifestyle.
Yeah, preach.
You know, there's a lot of people that can play receiver.
Uh-huh.
When I say you play receiver, you know, you play one position. You do the, you know, I'm the X. I play Z. No, man, wideouts. It's a whole. It's one of those things where you just can't even explain. You just have to know. When you sit back and say, man, I play wideout, you know, we play multiple positions. I can play inside, outside, you know, we're just all over the field. We just want to catch the ball. And the way we just approach life, I think, as a whole, on the field and off the field, it's a lifestyle. And just how we supported each other. You know, if you're a wideout, I'm going to push you, and I'm expecting you to push me. And it was just a tradition. I think it really, where it got to a point where we started saying wideouts, it was like 89. P-Row, Keith Williams, my bad.
You good.
Arne, Scott, Oz Akeem, Lil Ray, Larry Maxey, all them dudes, they were like, man, we wideout. So they start breaking the game down to me. So it kind of became a chant that up to this day now, up until this point, it started then in 89 where it's like, wideouts, you know. And it started because, you know, back then they had all the frats.
Yeah.
And the frats, like, you want to join the frat? I'm like, nah, wideouts is my frat. And they're like, we got to come up with something. You know, we got to have our own thing. They doing all they little, you know, so
yeah.
Wideouts, you know, kind of simulate that, but it was our own thing.
Yeah.
We didn't know that it was going to transfer to kind of just calling, like how I hit you. You played wide out and I yelled out wide outs and you hit me back, and I already knew, like, you know, now with so many people that we've all coached and we made a tradition that you already know. If somebody said, oh, I played at this college and Coach Swanee coached me, you already gonna know, well, if Coach Swanee coached you, go with timeout. Wide outs. You don't hit you with that, you know, you already know, like, nah, you're not no wide out.
Yeah.
You're a receiver. You're not no wide out.
Yeah.
But, you know, it just is a legacy now because it goes on where it's a tradition. And it built a brotherhood for all of us to a point where, you know, we can meet in a certain place and already know that it's a bond. Like we already had a bond and didn't even meet until that point, knowing that you was wide out, you did this, and it was just instant connection. We're like, oh, I already know what you about. You know, I already trying to get it in. Like, I already know. Like, you know.
That's probably the first lesson I learned when I got to San Diego State. If I get loud wide out, you better say it back. If you don't, it's like, it's a no.
Yeah.
So, you know, and then that grew, obviously, once, you know, you could see somebody in the street. And if you see them way down the road and you hear that call,
man,
say it back and loud and proud too.
I can give you a crazy story. So you had Keith Williams on here.
Yeah, I did.
Right. So he was coaching at Nebraska. So we went out there for the spring game, and I'm in the airport. And when we're coming into the airport, he sent one of his players to come get us.
Oh, shoot.
So I didn't know what he looked like. And as we're walking through the airport, I'm like, man, I don't know what dude looked like. So it's me and two of my other partners. And I see a cat, and it's the only brother in the distance, looked like he played ball. And my boy's like, you think that's one of Dove's people? I said, I'll find out right now. Wide out. We're in the airport. He turns around. You know.
That's all right. That's all right right there.
That's all right right there.
Yeah.
He turns around, Swanee. I said, there it is. Let's go.
Yes,
And it was one of those things where you just kind of know, like, okay, you coach by certain people. It's just a certain bond where never met him, didn't know who he was. He's one, and he went on to do great things out of there. But it's like, it's a funny thing that kind of links people together, but it kind of lets you know where if you doing that, you trying to do positive, because behind that isn't just you saying wide outs. It's about how you're going to better yourself as a man, how you're going to better yourself as a person outside of football, your family, your jobs, just how you're going to give back and how you're going to, raise the generation behind you and how you're going to make them better.
Yeah.
And I think that's just when we think about wideouts, those are things that we're thinking about. It's not just a position. It's about how you approach it and how you approach in life.
Yeah.
And I think that's the deep rooted thing that holds heart to me. When I say it, that's what I'm thinking. Like, I'm trying to get better in every aspect of life of what I'm doing. And I think football and just being at San Diego makes me push a lot harder in everything else that I'm doing.
All right. So, it's getting late. Just trying to get you out of here. But I do want to ask you one question, because I asked this to everybody.
Yeah.
If you could just place one phone call to the 18, 19-year-old, your 19-year-old self or 18-year-old self, what would you tell yourself?
I think it's the same thing that I tell my 19-year-old daughter, because she's a track superstar now in her own. Like, she's full scholarly up at UNLV.
Oh, okay.
And so I kind of look at our C's as my own self, because I look at it as that's me.
Yeah.
So what I tell her is what I'm, right now, I work with a lot of kids. I work for the probation department, so I work juvenile probation. So I look at them as it's never let adversity, whatever you're going through in life, stop you from achieving what you need to achieve. And my eye-opening day was getting pushed into that Gatorade, because I had to sit back and ask myself, is this it for me, or am I going
am I going to bounce back?
What I mean? I'm going through some adversity, because I was mad. I was like, man, it never happened, man. Like, what the hell?
Yeah.
So when you look at it, I think that was just an eye-opening day where it's like, no, man, whatever we doing, we're going to do it full speed, 100 miles an hour, and let's go.
Yeah.
And approach life that way, and don't let whatever adversity comes stop you from whatever your end game is, regardless of whatever it is.
Yeah, I love that.
You got a goal and you got something you're trying to go get. That ain't nothing but a DB in your way. You know what wideouts do with them. So, it's that.
Yeah, I love that. Now, do you think you would have listened?
I think I would have listened, because I listened to when it was told to me. I just didn't understand it then.
Got it.
You know what I mean? And I think that just comes from maturity. And I think that comes from growth. And those are the seeds that get planted to all of us that are still doing something, because it's a continuous process of just getting planted seeds and being around the right mentors. And I think I just got lucky enough with growing up through a lot of just street life stuff, and taking the seeds that were given to me and just learning from them as I started going through different adversities and understand, like, oh, that's what that person meant when he said do this or that.
Yeah.
Oh, because sometimes you don't get it, but the light clicks on later.
Yeah, for sure. And what's funny is, I tell people all the time, my dad used to tell me so many things. And then, and maybe I didn't quite understand it at that moment, but then later on, I find myself doing what he told me to do, like the right thing. But then I would stop and be like, man, my dad told me, like it just all clicked. Like, and luckily, maybe unconsciously, his words, I was living his words, and without even knowing it at the time until afterwards, like my dad did tell me that, so yeah, just the fact having a mentor, having somebody there to kind of share with you, just the ins and outs and, giving you the game, it helps.
Definitely. It helps us all grow. So we just got to live by those things. Just keep it pushing.
Yes, sir. Well, I appreciate you coming on the show.
Man,
this is dope. I you gave us a little history lesson here and there, told us the meaning of wideout, and I appreciate that.
Hey, it's all, we got to do another Vegas trip, man.
Yeah. And all right, so just to let you know and the people know, I like to get the story or the legacy before and, a little bit while you're at San Diego State, but I got to have you back on. And, the next time I have you back on, we're going to learn about, what you did after, but then also, I also want to do like a show where we have like a reunion, like, so whoever wideouts I had on already, we have like a group of y'all on and we just chop it up. And I know I could get some good stories out of y'all with that.
I'm definitely ready for that.
Yeah. So I'm going to get a couple more. I got to get a couple more and then we're going to get you back on.
I think we got to get the old schools, the new schools, just everybody on it at the same time. And let's see how familiar the stories are, just the, stuff that you went through. I think that'd be a great thing.
Yeah, we'll do it all because this is your show. This is our show. This is not just my show. So, it's just I'm doing this for the people, for the Aztecs, the old school, the new school, and the future school. So appreciate it.
One thing we did do with all those wideouts, we did a wideout reunion, and this was about 2 or 3 years ago when everybody was kind of in my class.
Yeah.
Great time. I think we might have to put one together where it's just a San Diego State then and now.
That would be dope.
Reunion.
That would be dope.
You get everybody so everybody can just see each other face to face, put names with faces. We see everybody on the field, the records that you guys done and the great things that's going on. That might be one of your captions on your show as well. Get that together, get some film on that, and trade some of them stories, and then come back with a podcast after that.
Heck yeah. Shoot, we might be able to shoot a couple shows on, wherever we're at. That would be dope. All right, hey, we're gonna do that.
Let me know. I'll help you out with it, man.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate you again for coming on. Stay blessed, stay positive. And to all those people out there, your legacy is not just the stats that you accumulated on the field. It's the people you touched and the lives you touched on and off the field. So that's what this is about. And this is family, Aztec family, Aztecs for life. Yeah. And stay blessed, man. Happy New Year. Merry Christmas.
Hey, same to you. Hey, happy holidays to you and your family. I got to leave with one thing. Wideout!
Legacy.
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 Legacy. Legacy.
Legacy.
Legacy.